I was 13 at the time, and we lived in Ohio. My dad was outside, fixing up his old tool shed, when we both started to hear a low growl come just from beyond the trees. I was in my bedroom at the time, playing video games, and I had my window open. I could hear my dad outside working, since he was right there in plain view. It was a beautiful sunny morning, so I enjoyed the cool breeze coming in. But the issue with my window being open is that it was always a pain trying to get it to close. It would somehow get stuck. Anyway, I heard the low rumble growl too, and I looked out the window and saw something that scared me more than anything else I'd ever seen. A wolf, about 7 to 8 feet tall, with a thick body, covered in grayish-white fur, standing on 2 legs like it was a human. This creature was huge and was walking upright, just like a person does. I saw it had 5 big claws on its front paws, and some on each of its hind legs. It looked like this thing had human hands with claws on them. The thing was creeping closer and closer to my father from beyond the tree's visibility point behind the shed. It just stood there, looking around and sniffing as if it were following the scent trail to where my father was. I was frozen in absolute horror, and I watched as it began closely watching my dad, observing him like a prey just before pouncing. I screamed out the window because it was open and that there was a monster in the trees. My dad looks and sees what I'm screaming at, and sees this thing. Then he bolts into the house. He races, locking the door. Then he runs into my room and tries the best he can to close my window, but can't get it to budge. As he's trying to get it shut the best he can, but the thing always gets stuck. This werewolf-looking animal is now walking and approaching the house right where we're at. My dad and I, in fear, fall backward and huddle in the corner together, unsure of what this approaching creature will do, our eyes fixed on it as it slowly begins approaching. It opens its mouth and snarls, very loud. It was very disturbing. It appeared to be very upset that we were in the room, or so I sensed. It then bares its teeth at us and makes a very sinister-looking grin on its face, like it wanted to hurt us. My dad didn't own any weapons during this time, so he pulled me into the back room that was my bedroom and into the bathroom and locked the door. The werewolf, or whatever this thing was, growled and snarled around the house a bit more. Then it stopped. My dad slowly opens the door and checks to see if the creature was gone, but he couldn't see it anywhere. He kept looking and looking, and there was no trace of it. It took a little while before he felt brave enough to step outside to truly check if this thing really was gone. He went from room to room, opening all the windows to see and peer outside. It was probably hours before he felt comfortable going out to his shed again. It boggled my mind. You think after an experience like that, you wouldn't be stepping foot outside again, but not my dad. He just brushed it off. This happened about 11 in the morning, on a bright sunny day. Whatever creature this was had no problem showing itself to us, and scarred my father and I for life. I've never, ever seen a beast so large as the creature that we saw that day. He said he was going to tell his friend, a very experienced hunter, about it. Well, he called him, but to no avail. A week passed, and my dad's friend still had not returned my father's phone call. Maybe the thought of a wolf standing up on 2 legs was too much for him. It couldn't have been a werewolf, because I don't believe that werewolves exist. But this defied every act of logic. I've heard stories of werewolves, and maybe even vampires, but I'd never seen one myself. Maybe this really was a werewolf. If that's the case, what's stopping vampires and other creatures of the night from existing? That's what I'd like to know. Oh, and to give some more context, my dad was a single dad at the time. It was just me and him living in this tiny 2-bedroom house. My mother and him had split when I was really little, and so I'd frequently go back and forth between spending time at both their houses. I don't really have many happy memories of my childhood, but those times when I stayed with my father, they were good. Well, besides this time, of course. I saw a massive upright, walking black wolf on 2 legs, walking across the road the other night. It was huge and had a long tail dragging behind it. I thought at first that it must be some kind of mythical creature. It was about 8 feet tall, I'm guessing, and had long fur, kind of like a bear, but much darker. Very shaggy and unkempt looking. It startled me the second I saw it, and I had to slam on my brakes in hopes of not hitting this thing. It darted across the road quickly and paid no attention to my oncoming vehicle. I could only stare at it as it ran up to a tree and jumped up topwards to the top of the tree. Once it jumped up into the tree, it was gone. I don't think my jaw has ever fell open that big before. When I say to you just how big this creature was, I mean this creature was so large. Taller than I am, and I'm 6'4". This thing had a broad chest, like it had been lifting weights, and a large head that looked disproportionate to its body, but it looked just like a wolf's head. Its legs were like those of a world champion weightlifter giant, rippling muscles coursing underneath its skin. This thing was a true behemoth of a creature. I just couldn't stop staring up at it in the tree in complete and utter awe. It took me about an extra 10 minutes to drive myself home that night, because I just couldn't fathom what I had seen that darted across the road in front of me. This occurred on August 7th, 2020, just outside of Colorado Springs, Colorado. It was already dark, and it ran about 20 to 30 feet in front of my car. Trust me when I say I got more of a look at it than I really bargained for. This was the night that I saw a real-life living monster. The next morning, when I told some of my friends what I had seen, they just kind of looked at me as if I was insane. I mean, I get it. I guess I'm a little nuts after all, but I know I'm not crazy. Not enough to make this up. I wasn't sleep deprived. I was completely sober. I know what I saw, and I will continue to share my experiences with people who are willing to listen. I know this all sounds pretty whacked out, but I'm serious when I say I saw what I saw. It was no dream. I'm just glad I could find a safe haven to submit my encounter like this, and to be believed and not be laughed at or mocked, as most people would. I'll forever drive more cautiously at night now because of this. I hope my experience can help somebody else in the future to be brave enough to share theirs. I know enough about cryptozoology to know that what I saw was a skinny, wolf-looking creature that walked on 2 legs about a month ago in a large open field coming towards the highway. I happened to look over the moment that I was driving by, and I saw movement that caught my eye, and I saw this creature barreling towards the road in front of me. I gasped because I'm in shock at what I'm seeing, and then it quickly ducked down into the tall grass, and I never saw it again after that. I'm a very novice crypto researcher, and only have a very elementary grasp on what a Dogman truly is. I never thought I would actually see it in person, let alone get as close to it as I got. I drove right past where it ducked down into the tall grass. I'm not sure if it was trying to hide or what it was doing. In any case, I didn't stop to see if it was still there, and didn't want to drive all the way back around. I kept driving, because to be honest with you, it freaked me out. Sure, I find cryptids fascinating, but that doesn't mean I want to be up close and personal to one. I almost wonder if it didn't know my car was coming, and was already out running towards the road. My car came around a heavily wooded bend in the area, around this field, and then it tried to fully conceal itself the best it could in the grass. It was gone, just like that, like it never even existed. I had to blink and think about what I just saw. It's like my brain couldn't wrap around the fact that this was real, that my encounter with it was not just a really bad nightmare that I wish would end. It looked just like a Wolfman. No, Not from the movies, but a wolf-looking human creature. I don't know too much about what a Dogman truly is, and what I saw was what I believed to be one in the flesh. I'm not sure why it came out into the open like that, but I do know that they are much faster than what I witnessed when it ducked down. I'm glad I got to see it up close. It's just too bad I don't have any knowledge on what it truly is, or what it was doing out there. I would think somebody who's more versed in Dogman would know something, and maybe they've had several encounters with these same creatures I have. Anyway, this is where my story ends. Once I drove to the other end of the field, I didn't see it anymore, since it had ducked down entirely and was now hidden away from view. This was in the evening time. There was still plenty of light outside, but the sun was starting to set. I didn't see it again for the rest of the evening or night, but I kept my eyes open on the large grassy field and the trees around it, kind of hoping that it would eventually pop up again. No such luck. The night went on, and no more Dogmen popped out on the road or next to it.